So we'll have the political insight, and this will be done by our club president, Serena. Trigger warning that the topic it relates to SA. So trigger warning for anyone that may feel discomfort as we venture into this category.
Okay, good night again, guys. So as we start our political insight, I look forward to hearing person's opinion on the matter, and let us remember to be respectful, and let's do this. So, should convicted child abusers be sentenced to life in prison or the death penalty?
I'm withdrawing my plea of guilty to not guilty, and I'm withdrawing my plea to appeal. I'm withdrawing my plea to appeal.
A state Supreme Court judge lashes out at a defendant who injured a child after the man tried to change his guilty plea. Good evening, everyone. I'm Don Postles.
And I'm Jackie Walker. Judge William Bowler had a hard time hiding his anger at Marcel Brooks after Brooks tried to change his mind right before sentencing. He wasn't the only one in the courtroom left furious. News 4's Dave Graber is here with more on this emotionally charged case. Dave?
Well, Jackie, Erie County's DA says Marcel Brooks is a career criminal who, for the second time in less than 7 years, was sent to prison for shaking a baby. In this most recent case, Brooks was so violent, the child may never fully recover. Marcel Brooks walked into a state Supreme courtroom this morning like he wasn't going to be sent to prison for 15 years. He coyly smirked at Justice William Bowler, even smiled to members of his family. At one point, he tried to withdraw the guilty plea of first-degree assault, an unexpected move Justice Bowler wouldn't tolerate.
I'm withdrawing my plea of guilty to not guilty, and I'm withdrawing my plea to appeal. I'm withdrawing my plea to appeal.
Although he pleaded guilty in June to seriously injuring 2-year-old Devin Grabowski by shaking him, Brooks persisted and refused to sign the plea.
And if you refuse to sign it, I'll sign it on your behalf because you abused a child years ago. You admitted to me you abused this child.
The repeated outbursts are the final act of a case that began in October in the town of Tonawanda when Brooks was babysitting the 22-month-old and violently shook him in a moment of frustration.
Seeing him in court today with a smirk on his face, it was like, I can imagine what other grandparents and parents would do. You know, you just want to go there and you just want to strangle him and say, why did you do this to this baby? This baby didn't hurt you at all.
Brooks was convicted in 2010 to a lesser felony assault charge for shaking a different baby of a different girlfriend.
Not only was this boyfriend not qualified, not prepared or competent to watch a kid because he shook the baby up, but he's a career criminal who had a prior shaken baby case before, and that's unconscionable.
Devin is left with lasting medical issues affecting his eyesight and his ability to stand and use his left hand. He requires therapy 6 days a week.
Everybody's was trying to get through it and worry about the baby. Seeing him every day just brings back everything that happened to him.
This gentleman, you want to see these cases, these individuals go away to jail for as long as possible. And this case right here, we got him in jail for as long as possible.
Now, Brooks told the judge that he would be appealing his sentence, a move that, quite frankly, is pointless because as part of his guilty plea, he loses his right to appeal. Live in the studio tonight, Dave Graber, News 4 at 5.
A man convicted in a brutal child abuse case is on his way to prison tonight. He was handed the maximum sentence for his crimes in court today, and he let out an outburst as he was walked out of the courtroom. First News senior reporter Jared Ricciuti breaks down the case against Eric Penland.
Sharon Lawson and her husband have been caring for disabled and abused children for many years. But in 2017, they began fostering the baby boy of Eric Penland, who last month was convicted of shaking the child so violently he's now permanently disabled.
Nothing prepared us for the screaming. Hours and hours of screaming.
Penland was in court this afternoon for sentencing on child endangering counts, but prosecutors say that's only because the baby never died from his injuries. The little boy suffered traumatic brain damage and a broken neck that left him hearing impaired, nearly blind in both eyes, and unable to hold his own head up.
For the rest of his life, Eric will rely on others to bathe him, dress him, change his diapers, feed him, administer his pain medications.
Prosecutors say Pendlin's prior record, which includes convictions for robbery and a federal firearms charge, mean mandatory prison time for this case, and they were asking for the maximum.
I would submit to the court that this entire record is absolutely devoid of any remorse by the defendant.
But Pendlin insists he's innocent.
I've been falsely accused. I've been wrongfully convicted.
Judge Anthony D'Onofrio told Pendlin the jury disagreed and found him guilty. After being sentenced to 11 years, the defendant bowed and shook his head before letting out one final outburst.
Man, I didn't do anything wrong, man.
Prosecutors tell me the little victim, who's now 2, was formally adopted by the Lawsons a few weeks ago and now lives out of the area. In Youngstown, Jerry Ricciuti, WKBN 27 First News.
51 years to life in prison. That was the sentence handed down to a mother who admitted to trading her 11-year-old daughter for heroin. The judge in the case had some choice words for her. 9 on your side's TJ Parker is live for us downtown with what she had to say. TJ?
She sure did, Carol. Judge Leslie Giz says she sees the effects heroin has on people daily, but she's never seen anything like this. So she shared her thoughts with April Corcoran before she handed down her sentence this morning.
I'm going to have this court will have the kind of mercy on you that you had on your daughter, which is none.
Judge Leslie Giz has no sympathy for 30-year-old mother April Corcoran. She made it clear what Corcoran did is disturbing.
All I can do is weep for her that the one person in the world, her mother, threw her under a bus because you wanted to get high. It is just awe-inspiring that you can stand here and in all of this, the one thing I haven't heard is asking for her forgiveness.
Corcoran pleaded guilty in June after she was indicted on charges relating to trading her daughter to her accused heroin dealer, Shandell Willingham, in exchange for drugs. She's also accused of giving her daughter heroin.
I don't think you recognize the damage that has been done to this poor child.
She deserves to die in prison.
The prosecutor in the case, Katie Pridemore, believes Corcoran's daughter, who is now living with her father and stepmother, will deal with this for the rest of her life.
I don't think she will ever be able to forget this, but I think with the love in her family, she will be able to get through it.
Not on Your Side talked with Corcoran's attorney about her sentence.
It's not surprising given the horrific nature of this case.
I failed my daughter in one of the worst ways possible.
Corcoran also spoke in court saying she's had time to reflect on what she did, saying she is consumed by guilt every day. Now, Corcoran's accused dealer, Shandell Willingham, who we just mentioned in that piece, he has been charged in this case as well, and he'll be tried here in Hamilton County. Now, you briefly heard from Corcoran there. We'll have more on what she had to say in court coming up at 6 o'clock. We're live downtown. I'm TJ Parker, 9 on Your Side.
Next up, we have some statistical data for first persons that have abused children. Serena will read these.
Okay, just a disclaimer, guys. These statistics are from the US. Although current laws make it nearly impossible for convicted sex offenders to live or work near places where children congregate, that doesn't change the fact that they live in neighborhoods where families live. It also doesn't change the fact that a sexual offender, even with proper supervision and treatment, can easily become a repeat offender. An estimated 24% of those serving time for rape and 19% of those serving time for sexual assault had been on probation or parole at the time of their repeat offense. An adolescent sex offender who does not receive treatment will commit an estimated 386 crimes over their lifetime. 1 out of every 2 child molestations that occur are perpetrated by an adolescent male. Offenders with a previous sex offense conviction have a 37% re-offense rate. Approximately 47% of the people are victimized by their family or their extended family. The average amount of jail time that a sex offender will serve out of their average 8-year prison sentence is 3 to 5 years. it costs $22,000 per year in order to incarcerate a sex offender. The percentage of sex offenders that will commit another crime, non-sexual in nature, after being released from jail is 70%. Only about 30% of rapes are reported to the police. It is not unusual for a sex offender It's not unusual for a sex offender to spend years developing a trustworthy reputation so they can be near children and commit an offense that many just cannot believe. Researchers indicate that sex offenses are one of the most unreported crimes that happen. Rapists repeat their offenses at a rate up to 35%.
Thank you very much for that. And the question we're asking is, should convicted child abusers be sentenced to life imprisonment or death penalty? One person had stated, I don't believe in death penalty because I feel it's an easy way out of punishment. I think true punishment should be solitary confinement, where your mind begins to turn on itself and you're stuck with nothing forever. So guys, want to hear from you. Raise your hands and let's raise your hand in order. Let's just say Natty have her hand up, everlasting. Like the almost tired now. Let's hear from you, Natty. Go ahead.
All right. So these offenders, no, me not think them deserve death penalty. Death penalty too quick. Unless you go give them like couple months or couple years or some hard labor, like some rough labor and some trial and tribulation, as Christian people that call it, before you give them the death penalty. No. Death penalty too quick and too easy because the trauma with them cause for children are gonna last that child for a lifetime, especially if them don't have the right support system. So no, death penalty it sounds too much like paradise at this point. So hard labor, some serious disgusting conditions, make them think about it every day, But them regret it for the rest of their life. And that's still not enough, but yeah.
All right, thank you very much for sharing. We appreciate that. Let us hear from you. The next person in line is Serena. Go ahead, Serena.
All right. So for me, I do believe in the death penalty, but I don't think the death penalty is for rape. Reason being, as we can also the statistics, and I'm not defending a raper, but some people can and will change. It's less than 50% per statistic. However, for me, also as Natty said, I think the death penalty is so easy. Those coal mines and stuff, or oil mines, they need to just put some of them under there, and that's it. And as I said, public humiliation. When I don't even know, being homosexual is so accepted now. So I think though they need to start putting some of these straight men that out there raping in the middle of the village and have the homosexual man them, rape them. And then we need to you see the roller coaster where the youth drop out of, we need to put a bag of them in that and just loosen it and have them shake around. That just so me feel. And as they said, it's less than 30% of people who report rape, and that is because when persons report rape, you hear that they're lying, and when they don't report rape, you hear that they're being silent. And we have to understand and create a balance and a safe space. I cannot be telling someone that I've been raped and then I am looked down on as a slut or something, or I was the one that was giving it up. Because I've told persons, even up to the point of kissing, even up to the point of oral sex, even up to the point of somebody fingering you or not. If you say stop, it's stop. And I think everyone needs to learn that the word stop is it. I'm not asking for it. And I think persons they forget that all the time, and for persons asking, well, how you shake a baby and their bones break up. As a person who raised a child, when a child is at that stage, a child's bones start to set at a specific age, and their bones and tissues are softer. So you see, when you shake that child, you see whatever their that position their bones are set in, that's a position for life, and so that's why they can be disabled, and their nerves and everything just shake out of place. But for me, it's really upsetting to see that these things are happening. That's why I don't even really watch the news, because then I get so emotional and I get so angry at some of the stupid things I see people do. When you're going around shaking people's children, I don't understand. If somebody need to hold you, them not even need to shake it, them just need to hold you and broke each bone in your body one by one, make you feel it, right? At that them need to do. That's me.
Thank you very much for sharing. We appreciate it. We have one more hand raised. Okay, I see in two. Yes, I was just about to encourage you guys. I see you typing in the chat, but let's hear from you. Let's hear your voices. Want to hear. I mean, I understand if you have a lot to say, but get it off your chest. Think it over, articulate it in your head, and let's hear what you have to say. Before I take in Natty, I want to hear from Kevon. All right, go ahead, Kevon.
All right, so I agree with everything that those who before me said. But I think, yeah, they should. Death penalty is way too easy for them. I mean, the trauma and all of that they have to deal with, it's not fair. And for you have to do that to somebody and you're not experiencing it yourself, that's not right. And then again, think about it. Why would you, as Serena said, she's asking, why would you go around shaking people's babies? And then I was thinking about a class I had that was talking about, our past and how much our past could have to do a lot with our present. So I think a lot of the things that people know today probably come from like them father or their mother, what them do to them, or them learn it from something or someone. So convicting child abusers is one thing, but if you don't stop it from the root, from what's actually causing it, then it's going to be a continuous thing. When I look at the statistics, you can punish them, sure, but if you don't stop it from where it's actually coming from, then it's going to be a cycle. So that's my view.
Thank you very much for sharing. Go ahead, Natty.
All right, so now that Serena explained it to me, and like the fact say that the person like literally shake a baby so hard that they're basically disabled, just sound very nice right now. That's why I agree with Serena when they say make them go back to anything where they get where the crime, any crime where them do, make them go back to it. So if I stab a man, kill him, you go feel back how it feel. But we're not kidding it doesn't need to endure the pain a little bit. Right? So you do them it and they make them re-heal and you do them it again so they feel how it feel. Because them not understand say a trauma you have place for the person when you do them for them things, especially a child or a minor. Like, and then you figure go to jail, go sit down and eat 3 meals per day and enjoy show and all of that. No, that's a luxury living. That is luxury living. That's a luxury living. That's a petty crime. You know, they want and two. They are petty crime behavior. Them serious crime here, man. Jail look like a paradise right now compared. I'm not even gonna go in a detail to when me think to do them. Because they probably look at me and say, no man, Natty, you're wicked. But yeah, no. Death penalty too nice and jail penalty too nice. But better say if them start coming with some harsh, severe punishment, like some labor and some PM type punishment, but then feel the pain and the pain not enough to kill them. It's about broke down your body. You feel like your body are broke down limb by limb, bone by bone, muscle by muscle, every vein in your turn up, and they will leave you alone and make you recuperate for a few weeks. So they will do it again, and you just see how much of them want to sit down. Cause no, they just go to jail, go eat 3 days per meal and enjoy their life. They don't bills up here, they don't nothing. So no, death penalty not good enough and jail not good enough. So we need an in between. I feel like say forget that in between. Like I feel like criminals no fear jail nowadays. Is that fear is not there. So we need to bring back some of that fear aspect there. You know.
Thank you for sharing. I do have a question though, and either of you will answer before I actually go. Just answer it really, really quick. What's the point? Like, if you stop watching news because you can't handle, all those stuff, it still not stop it from happening. May I understand that maybe you can't handle it, but it's still not stop it from going. It not make, it not really change much. So, do you like do it for your own peace of mind? Or is a case where you don't want to hear about them things there at all, like, or you don't want to hear about those things frequently? Like, what is it like? What is it?
The thing with news is that, alright, so in Jamaica, typical Jamaica knows them. I grew up like an 8 o'clock. My granny used to always say me, "Oh, you have to listen to news, because you have to know what going on in your country and things." You see me? But it's like me take up my phone, me I hear about something. Throughout the day, me I hear about 10 million different bad things, like every different thing. And then if I come home, and as me come home, that little time I may have to just get a breather. Every day I something different from news. It's like the word, not even Jamaica, despite the word is not a weird face. And sometimes if you're not watch yourself, you get overwhelmed, and like it's hard to see the good in a work because you're just constantly surrounded by it. So see, if I got my phone, me hear it pan Twitter or Instagram, it not gonna hear about. Because me not watching no news. News depressing, man. News is depressing. News sad, man. Every day I get up here, hear how much this and how much. No, man.
Yeah, I agree. The news is
Thank
very
you very much.
depressing.
Thank you very much for answering my question. Go ahead, Ashley. And after Ashley, we want to hear from you, Dalvin. It's not too much to ask. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, before I answer the question with the child abuse thing that you are talking about news, I watch news. Not every day. But the reason why I watch news is because I want to be made aware of everything, and not every time I always up on social media. And I might be tech savvy, but compared to other people, I'm like average. Yes, news sad, and sometimes it make you get really angry, especially when it comes to like politics and them something there and the crime, and people are coming their foolishness. Sometimes you just feel like cuss people out. But yeah, it's very informative. Now, onto my favorite part, this child abuse question. First of all, I agree with everything that everybody who went before me said. What I would do, though, in addition, is that I would actually mutilate them. Yeah, I'm gonna probably tie them to some horses, or tie that thing to some horses and let it be pulled off, or I would cut it off. That is probably, heat up a saw and cut it off. Yeah, let them just feel that. And then I'd put them in a jail where there's a lot of gay men. And, let them deal with them. Because you can't abuse a child like that and then expect to get the death penalty like dead just like that. No, so that's way too easy. I want them to feel pain. And even though I'm gonna skin off him teeth and smirk, I don't want to get that. You would do that to my child and come and smirk up with me? Wait for you to be. Anyways, yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Ashley. I just want to state to you guys that, guys, remember, someone's sexual orientation does not make them a weapon. So I hear you guys saying you want to unleash gay people on them. Like, I understand the intention. We have to remember there are also people who says they want to be, associating with them in such a way. Perhaps they don't want to physically harm them versus, sexually assaulting them. Just because they're gay doesn't mean they want to inflict that kind of thing on someone else. And I'm not saying that you guys are immediately insinuating that, but some persons might draw that conclusion from what you're saying. So yeah, they're human beings too. They're not weapons to unleash on people like that. So yes, Dalvin, let's hear. Feel tight, recording, but let's hear what you have in mind.
I mean, I don't go too in depth, honestly, but this is how me think. Them punishment is set up so them can give back to society while they are being tortured every single day. So they don't need to eat. They don't need to eat unless have enough to keep them alive. They don't need to sleep unless enough to keep them alive. So that 3 square meal, the 3 meals for a day, that can be replaced with about a hour worth of beating. Constant beating. while all of that are going, they're supposed to work. So some hard labor, real hard labor, kind of thing where you know say you wouldn't want to send somebody to do because it's dangerous. You see me, if them dead, I just dead. And all for the money did that smirk. Just did that smirk. Well, me assume say I get some form of pleasure. And I might think about when ruin 2-year-old. 1 2-year-old could have done nobody. People like them, they don't just set on fire. And just wait. They're not gonna kill them. They need to keep them alive. So every day they catch them off fire. You know, let me stop talk. Carry on. Yeah.
No, me agree with you. They need some labor with make our ancestors look back and gasp. You know, to say, wow, we were in paradise in slavery. Some of them type of labor there, some of them type of conditions there. If we make slavery look like a plaything, like a joke, like literally, if the ancestors them not look in them grave and gasp, me no want to.
If you ruin, more well people not realize what do to people mind, you know, because then just ruin somebody's future, a young lady or even a man, right? Then now got pre-intercourse the same way again, because every time them about to do that, then just I gotta think about the one bad experience, or how much of a bad experience or somebody like you ruin somebody's future, and then that the somebody that could end up take you out and feed them pitney, and it's basically an endless cycle that them start.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you all of you guys for sharing and for your participation and for your comments in the chat section. We appreciate the engagement. We hear your thoughts, your opinions, and your stance. Let's also bear in mind, and I know this is the part that we all hate to hear, but I have to be that point of reason, that you have laws that protect these, prisoners if they're sentenced to prison where they're still human, so you have to treat them as humans. You can't be inhumane with them and beat them every day, even if you feel like you should. You also have some stance where persons will say 2 wrongs don't make a right. Again, I'm just speaking the the other side, not necessarily things I agree with, but yes, these are other things that people take into consideration. They also consider the situations where persons change. I think Serena had mentioned that earlier. Hence, we had presented the statistics to show how often these persons reoffend and how often these persons, come in contact with children again, even after being abusers. In the second video that we watched, I believe the first video with the black male, he was sentenced to 15 years. He had 2 cases on his profile of shaking babies and causing harm. 2. And I'm like, you did it once, okay? And he did it a second time. People need to really do background checks on who they leave their children with, because it seems he's doing this to the children of his girlfriends. So not even his children, not even like his baby mother or anything like that, his girlfriend's children or a child that he's doing this to. And it's so sad. In the second story, we saw where that baby was, the shake was so hard that they have lifelong injuries from it, and it's very unfortunate. The third story we see where his mother is a drug addict, and she was willing to, sell her child for, the drug that she wants. Some persons say drug addiction or addiction itself is a disease. It's hard to control yourself. When I was doing the research for this, these things, a lot of comments from other persons were from survivors or persons that are overcoming their addiction, and they said, even though they had really low lows, they have never thought of hurting someone. They have never, hurt someone. They never had the thought to do it. They never thought of hurting like a child. Some of them even said, they became pregnant during their addiction, through careless acts and all those stuff. And that child, maybe not out to cure all, but for some of them it kind of set them straight. They're like, I'm responsible for this whole other being. I don't want my life to keep going this way. And these are just few testimonies. I don't speak for everyone, but it's just really inhumane, and it's really unfortunate. That's the world that we live in. And personally, I'm like, I don't know if I even want children, to be honest. Not because I would never see myself with a family, but because I'm so scared in terms of, you might think you protect them to the best of your abilities, but even your family or close friends can hurt your children. That's what I'm saying. Even your partner, if you don't choose wisely, can hurt your children. You can send your child to school and they go missing, or someone at the school is supposed to take care of them is hurting them and harming them. And then it just makes me so fearful, because I'm like, I know I can't control everything in life, that's not a possibility, but oh my god, how it's just so hard to just in good conscience be like, yeah man, I'm gonna go plan for a child, when you just know how how much wrong that can happen. And I mean, it doesn't mean they're destined to get hurt, but it's hard to not think about this. And when you think about other situations that happen to other people, it just really, if you're an empath, or if you have any compassion, you feel it for the parents. You're not in their shoes. Imagine trusting this person to oversee your child, and they abuse them in one way, or they leave permanent injuries. I mean, separate from like psychological, they leave permanent physical injuries to your child. Your child will never be the same. You'll never be able to see your child at their full potential in terms of how they would have been had this person not, done what they did to them. They have no, cause harm and damage to your child in that way. And then as a parent, you're like, you get to live and you go on with your life. That's not fair. That's not fair to me, because my child is never going to be the same, or my child has passed on because of your actions or whatever. You don't feel fear, but then you also have the aspect of an eye for an eye and we all go blind. I know it's frustrating to hear. You're like, oh, be the bigger person, or, two wrongs don't make a right. It's frustrating, but these are other stands that some people will have, and some people will say, is it morally right to say we imprison them and treat them like slave and treat them all kind of way? Is it morally right? What about situations where persons are framed and all the evidence points to this person, but they look like they did it on paper, all the evidence point, but they didn't do it? Because those things are real life situations, even if they may be minute. Imagine one person is in prison for sexually assaulting a child he never assaulted, but all the evidence is pointing to him, and he's living in misery and being tortured for something he didn't do. And you're contributing to that, whether you know it or not. You're still, so you think you're being a good person. You're not. You're making someone who is innocent, their life miserable. So it's all of these aspects and more that you have to take into consideration. Yeah, you do have the emotional aspect, which is just very intense, especially if it's personal to you or personal to someone you know. But these situations, unfortunately, they're not so black and white most of the times, where we can just say, quick fix. You can't cook, don't be a chef, So thank you guys for participating in this segment. We have no more raised hands at this time. So we're going to move. Okay, we have one. Go ahead.
You said that there are laws protecting these abusers, right?
There are laws protecting them when they're in prison. You can't treat them like slaves and be inhumane.
Why though? That don't make no sense. I mean, look at it. These people actually hurt children, like in ways that they can't recover.
But you have to remember, is there different type of offenders in prison,
Mm-hmm.
So unless you have to create a separate prison and a separate set of laws, as Mehdi say,
and that's called discrimination, actually, because in prison, what used to happen is the prisoners would have jungle justice against child abusers. And then let's say in prison, like you're a prisoner, you kill somebody who had done that to a child. The other prisoners who didn't commit any crimes against children will probably praise you. But then you will get additional charges and additional sentence on your sentence. And then you will be, it will also include like discrimination. You're discriminating against them, which, it kind of sounds crazy, but yes, it's a thing. So because of all the political aspect, it's not so black and white. It's not a...
Sorry to cut you, they actually do that a lot. I still think they don't know the severity of it, but I think they still do it up to date, especially for persons that are convicted of rape.
Yeah, but they can't do it easily. Since recent, what they've been doing is they've been separating them. So you have like a section for what do you call it, like sexual persons who do rape or any kind of stuff like that. They're separate and apart from persons who commit other crimes.
We do the world ago, them laws, they might have to get revisited in our house.
Yeah, as Sandy said, human rights protects everyone, no matter how bad the person is, which is, it's true. We might not agree, but that's just the reality. And I know it might be infuriating for some of us because we feel like, well, them not forgetting a nice treatment, because what them do to those children were never nice, but that's the reality. It's, well, I hate the reality, and you're justified in hating the reality. That's fine.